I was trying to make like a pie that was like a French recipe or something, and like they were like, do this in a conventional oven. I had to Google it. I was like, what the fuck is a conventional oven? Like a normal one, or
it's a normal one? Yeah, that's what it says. That's what it says on all the like boxes.
Yeah,
it's like conventional oven. But I was like, I don't know of an unconventional one. So
yeah,
I'm like, I assume this.
What is it?
An air fryer?
Pregnant out of wedlock?
Oh well, welcome to the Baroque Girls podcast. Welcome to another podcast no one asked for, created by two classically trained ex-theater kids.
We're breaking the stigma around money and talking all about what it's like being young, dumb, and broke. I'm your host, Maria Small.
And I'm your host, Isaiah Washington, and this is Baroque Girls.
I made a similar joke back in college to someone like who I had a friend who was a civil engineer, and I was like, damn, yeah, those other ones go fucking crazy.
Oh my god.
Why? Because like if he's a civil engineer, the others are presumably uncivil, so it's like, yeah, I don't even want to know what's going on in those study sessions. Yeah.
Holy shit.
And believe it or not, it landed.
It landed?
I do believe that.
Yeah.
I could see that
like
landing,
a theater kid.
Yeah.
Right. I'm okay. Yeah. That audience is crazy.
It checks out.
Well, no, it landed with him. I was an RA also, though.
Oh, okay. You're
So
revealing
embarrassing.
this is close. You're revealing a lot.
Too much, honestly.
No, but honestly, it makes sense. You have like a motherly. You have like a not like old, like young, but like you have like a motherly vibe about you. You take care of everyone.
Really?
Right, yeah.
As a
absolutely.
kid, my parents and grandparents would always call me babushka because like,
Okay.
I was
Why
like
did
a
you
little.
open your mouth like it was a shock that I called you motherly? And you're like, my nickname was Babushka.
Because I don't like being the mom friend. I think it's a really obnoxious position to be in.
You think it's an obnoxious position for
Because it's
what
like
reason?
because it's become one. It's like I'm the mom friend, and it's like the
Oh.
girls are like
Yeah.
pick-me's, you know?
Yeah,
Oh.
no, but you like try and hide it.
Yeah.
So it's like cute and fun.
Yeah, I've tried so hard to hide it, and now
It's
I feel like it really came out when you planned 4th of July.
that one was,
when you
and
planned
get collecting the
4th of July.
Venmos. Yeah,
Collecting
that
the
was like a
Venmos was
whole-
crazy.
Telling
I
people
mean,
what to buy from the grocery store.
Yeah, you know.
I
what
brought
I'm saying?
water bottles.
And
I
you
was
did.
told to bring water
Yeah,
bottles,
and
I
you did your
it.
job.
And you
Yeah.
did that. And you did that.
And that's because it like that's because the task was coming from you.
I
I was like, I can't fuck around.
That's so true. I had just met you once before that too, and I was already asking.
You're like, hey, do you think you could bring like water and a barbecue?
Yeah,
No,
no,
I'm just
it
kidding.
was. Yeah, it was.
That's so funny because planning your birthday party is like planning a birthday party for a mother. Like they're like trying to get involved
yeah.
in every way.
Not you
possible.
literally giving it away right now. Planning your surprise.
She knows there's a party.
Yeah.
She knows there's a party. She knows nothing about the party, who's coming to the party,
which is insane.
what time the party
crazy.
is,
I had to.
what's gonna be at the party. She
Yeah, I had
doesn't
to
know
pull
any of
teeth
that.
to figure out what to wear because what I
Right.
wear is so important
that is
to me.
very
And it's
important.
like, okay, so some of the beans have to be spilled. It's like, kid dressed like this.
Yeah.
Yes. There's been a lot of like, different tidbits that we've been like, throwing around.
That's the hard thing about throwing a surprise birthday party for someone who like isn't a childhood friend. It's like you don't know everything about them,
Right.
do-
However, we've
Although
got
you
some
We do have some. We
childhood
do have
friends.
some. Yes, we
Yeah.
do have some.
Helping.
Yes, in
do
this.
have a
Yeah.
lot of bases.
So
covered,
I mean,
yeah.
the party is going to be a vibe. Like the party. We were actually
so
just
glad
talking about.
that I knew about it.
We just talked.
and the list that I typed out that
There's a reason, and a reason that you will know sooner than Maria.
Okay.
A reason you will know sooner than Maria.
amazing.
Isa will know after this podcast.
This Friday when I'm 23.
This Friday, Maria's turning 23.
That's so crazy. You're so young. How old are you?
24.
Oh,
I just
thank
turned
God.
24.
At least you're like, you're not 21,
And
Right.
neither am I,
I'm about to say, I'm like, wait, 23 and 24 aren't really that different, but
No, but they are. You guys, like every year you turn older, you're like, oh, this is
the
is
year,
it.
yeah.
And then
Yeah, by this is it. What do you mean?
you're like, oh, I'm an adult now. Because you know how like when you're a kid, you're like, you think adults have their life together, but they don't.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as you become an adult and you get older, you're like, oh, this is the year that like I'm gonna be like, like oh, I'm going to get my shit together and people
Yeah.
better watch out.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
not ready. I'm next.
Yeah.
I'm next.
Yeah, like I'm next. And then you're up.
I'm next.
What does that mean? Like up, you're like,
I don't know what.
it's like Comedy Central's up next.
They just want me because I'm next, you know, and Neo Surf by.
What does that have to do with age?
I feel like that's they don't want to see me flex. They just want me because I'm next.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with age?
No, I got it. It's like I'm on the come up.
Yeah, I'm on the come up.
That is about career. Everything y'all are mentioning is about like
and
career.
I'm feeling like, okay, you know, like this year of my life is gonna be
Oh, okay, where you like
year.
figure things out.
Yeah, it's like 23. I do think 24 is gonna be the big year for me, but 23 I think is gonna be a very important year.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the thing about 23.
I
Age
moved
20
to LA at 23.
Wow.
Yeah.
Almost 24.
Yeah, I also moved to LA in 20.
A lot of big stuff happens in 23.
Lots of big things happen at 23, but you don't find yourself out in 23. I will say that. You don't find yourself out.
Oh no, for sure. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Although I do feel like I know like who I am now. You know what I mean? Like
When did you figure that out, would you
am
say?
a Tesla girl. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into
Everybody, this is Isa Medina, by the way.
Yes,
Did I
yes,
pronounce her last
our-
name correct?
Yeah.
Okay, Isa Medina.
amazing guest Isa Medina, and
Yes.
we need to like do a better job introducing. So like, yeah, Isa is a stand-up comedian,
Right, yeah.
and she does a podcast
Yep.
called Sounds Like a Cult, which we'll get into all of this stuff. And she's just in general a great person.
A
Um,
great
my
person, a
gosh.
vibe.
so likable and
Yes.
like always, you know,
An
engaging.
actress as well.
Yeah,
I'm
You're an
always really
actress.
engaged.
Yeah,
You're
always
always really
engaged.
You
in
know,
the
like when
conversation.
you guys say action, I say ha ha.
Yeah, Issa's really into the realism of our TikToks, like making sure it's professional. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah. I
God.
just want to make sure it's candid, you know?
We were
Like,
Yeah.
filming an ad yesterday, and we were like, "All right, action." Issa went, "Okay,"
And we immediately have to be like,
That's
I was really just trying, like, you know how in commercials they like are always laughing and
Yeah,
happy, even
yeah.
if they're selling like a tampon.
Yeah.
Like that's the vibe I was trying to give off.
and
Yeah.
it was, and
And
that
you
was
were
the
giving
vibe.
it.
And you were
However,
giving
that's
it.
not
That
what
is
we
not
needed to
what we
do.
were looking for that video at all.
Yeah.
But it was
It
that
was,
vibe.
you did succeed. Yeah.
And that's why you guys are also just like so easy to be like comfortable around. I feel like we're like friends from high school or college. You know what I mean?
We're college friends for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely giving college friends. I definitely
Yeah.
feel that. Like
Definitely
with our friend group.
comfortable.
So when did you figure out your age? You figure out your age. When did you figure out your age?
What do you mean by this?
What age did you figure out yourself out?
I checked
Yeah,
out
yeah,
my
yeah.
birth certificate and I was like, oh shit.
Oh shit!
I'm getting old.
Shit!
Because I'm trying to like erase my history off the internet for like people not to know my age, you know? Because like, have you noticed how like now people who are just starting to get like famous, like
Yes, Maddie
they
from
have
Euphoria.
Yeah, they have a range of years that
On
they were
their-
born on their encyclopedia. They're like 94 to 98, and that people are like, no one knows how old they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
We
yeah.
don't know how old
Alexa Demi
is.
is. Yeah.
We don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever.
I'm trying to be that. But
Yeah.
what was the question?
What age did you figure yourself out?
Oh, well, I'm definitely still figuring myself out, but I
Yeah.
do think like the pandemic helped me, not helped, I mean, it hurt me in a lot of ways and then made me figure out like what my goals are.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's really when I was like, because stand up was really a hobby before the pandemic. And then I got fired during the pandemic. And then I started my podcast and then it started doing well. And it gave me the opportunity to like go full time on the podcast. And so then it was like immediate pivot switch, like, oh, I want to be a comedian. I want to act. I want to write.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. The pandemic did something similar for me as well. I wasn't able to work and then I started doing TikTok. You know what I'm saying? And that was when it's like, that's when things like start to change. You know what I mean? It's really like out of the negative, the worst things, the most negative things, you know, that you kinda, like,
Yeah.
we've made this new world for ourselves now, you know,
through
what
the
I'm saying?
adversity,
Through
yeah.
the adversity of that event, that current event that's still happening.
This current event. Yeah.
Dude, like being able to like live off of a platform, like the way my co-host was talking about it, she was like, it's like kind of like we like won the lottery almost, you know, because like you're able to just like, obviously it's not easy. I mean, we were talking about this the other day. The algorithm is an evil
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 person.
force, evil
It's a
presence,
dark
always
place.
looming.
It's
Yeah.
a dark, sad
and they
place.
control our lives. or
Unless
our
they ask me,
livelihood.
in which case it's a great app.
Yeah.
And I love it.
We love social media. But I feel like it's like I don't know, just because like and also working from home like has changed the game for so many people. Like a lot of my roommate's 24 and he's an assistant. When I was 24 and I was an assistant, I had to go into the office every day from like 8:30 to 6 p.m. And so then I was like hustling to try and like do other things on the side.
Exactly.
Whereas like now everyone's working from home. And so like you can like do shit at home while you're working from home.
While you're working from home, which is a pretty big deal. So you said you're full time on the podcast now. So is that what your main source of income is?
Yeah, it's my full and only source of income.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
shout out to my listeners.
Shout out to listeners. It sounds like a cult. Talk about your podcast.
Yeah. So it's a podcast about the modern day cults we all follow. So it's like every episode is about a different cult followed group or figure. And it's a comedy cult podcast, so it's not like super dark.
Sure.
But we kind of do like a deep dive on like different topics. Like we did like the royal family. We did like an episode on the cult of Soul Cycle. That was our pilot episode. The cult of, dude, we've done so many episodes. I'm like, I don't know what that
Yeah, at this point, just throw it a noun.
Yeah. Something that I think your listeners would like. We haven't done it yet, but we want to do an episode on the cult of David Dobrik. And so like we recorded it already, but I think we want to re-record it because we didn't do that deep of a dive.
But yeah, your full-time job is podcasting, and you recently just bought a Tesla.
So I did. We literally did do an episode on the cult of Elon Musk, and I like roasted the shit out of him, and then I was like, "Oop!" But I got a Tesla.
So it's like, wow, like podcasters have Teslas. Like this is like an insane. Who would have thought? You know,
it is nuts, and like I feel like I have to, like when you like don't grow up with money, you have to like justify your purchases.
Yeah,
justify your purchases.
You're like, I'm like, no, like I really needed a new car.
Yeah, you did I went through this whole, you're like, I tried to buy a Honda.
And they just wouldn't give it to me. So I had to buy a Tesla.
Yeah. Yes.
No, but like for the listeners, it's like because of inflation, I thought I could just like lease a car. Because also I don't know how much, I want to live in New York at some point. And so I was like, okay, I don't know if I want to like buy a car if I'm going to go to New York. But I was looking at leasing, and because of like inflation, it's like so expensive to lease a car right now. And then you don't even own the car at the end of it. And then gas was like literally $7 a gallon in LA. So then I was like, okay, I will just like look at this as like an investment because the value of Teslas don't go down, and then I won't have to pay for gas. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get like the base model, the cheapest model. And now I'm like really happy because I really like it.
Yeah,
that's
this
fantastic.
Is great.
That's fantastic. I think that's so interesting, like what you said about having to justify every like purchase because people who like are accustomed to having money don't do that. They're just no, I just wanted that. And
they literally do not. And also it made me think about how like I'm like embarrassed. Like I don't want to like show up to like a comedy show like in a Tesla. But like people who grow up with money and like their parents gave them like an Audi as like a high school graduation gift, they're not embarrassed of their money.
They're not embarrassed that that's the only car they have.
Yeah, and also I'm like, I shouldn't be embarrassed. I bought this with my own money.
You bought this with your own money. Yeah, you worked for it.
To afford it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a portion of things. I feel like there's like so much shame in splurging on yourself. You know what I'm saying? Right. Or even if it's like in your case, buying the Tesla was an investment that you thought through, looked over, and then was like, oh, this is actually best for my current situation. And even still, because it's a Tesla, which is considered to be a luxury car by some people. I mean, don't get mad at me if you dislike Tesla.
You know
what I'm saying?
Car,
but it's a luxury
it's a luxury car.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's a $50,000 car. So it's like, it's more than a $50,000.
It is financed. I didn't put $50K down.
Right, sure. Yes, I mean,
But some people put $50K down on like a fucking necklace in a day. You know what I mean?
They do often. Crazy. They do that often. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like
people do judge based off of like your material possessions, but like oftentimes they're only seeing like one or two.
Right.
Because I didn't grow up with money either, but like I would spend like my money on like I'm still paying off, but like my car, which was like a newer car at the time, and like my laptop, and like there are very few things that like I knew I needed it and like I spent my money on. So it like might have appeared like at the library that I was like a rich bitch with like my MacBook and like my iPad, but it's like I don't got shit else.
Right, right.
Exactly.
Like,
I still have roommates. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And like, and I used to think it was like dumb to like buy a car before you like bought a house, and then I'm like, I'm never gonna be able to afford a house.
No.
Or like I used to think like material possessions were like dumb, which was honestly kind of like dumb of me, because like in LA we do spend so much time in our car that it really is like my old car was like a 2010 like Jeep Patriot, and I bought it off Facebook Market for $5,000 when I moved to LA.
Real as fuck.
Yeah.
And it just like was so loud and like shaky on the highway, and whenever I called my mom, she was like, are you like, where are you, you know, because like it
In a
was so
plane,
loud.
Yeah, Jeeps are bad.
Yeah, and then the gas was also shit. But yeah, I was pretty much just like, whatever, dude. Like if you enjoy something, treat yourself.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
It's 100 degrees. Okay.
It's like
Yeah.
we gotta have a car with some good AC.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's not fair that you have to also grow up with money to be okay with having expensive things. I don't think that that's fair. I feel like if you have the ability to be able to get something and be able to treat yourself, do something nice for yourself, get something that maybe other people are not able to get, you should do that and be able to enjoy it, and then your reasoning should just be able to be I wanted it.
I wanted this. I'm
Yeah.
happy.
You know what I'm saying?
I feel like
wanted
it's also because like with every purchase or whenever you make money, as like I'm Colombian, so I'm an immigrant and a child of immigrants, but also like as someone who like whether you grew up like middle class, as long as like you didn't grow up like rich, you always carry like the weight of like wanting to help your parents out later on in life.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like if unless you have like super duper rich parents who have like 2+ houses, like and a retirement already finished
Sure.
up,
Yeah.
then you're like, oh,
It's always
crap. Every
lingering, yeah.
every purchase you make, you're like, oh, I could have like saved this
saved
and then
it.
helped out later on.
Mhm.
Exactly.
You know,
Mhm.
but whatever. My dad honestly was like so excited that I got a Tesla. He like
Yeah.
called me the day that it arrived and was
Yeah.
like, show it to me.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, our parents aren't like looking at our purchase being like, not saving that for my retirement. You know,
Right.
It's like,
Yeah, they're not thinking that.
they're
because-
not. Only we are
Yeah.
because we're like
Yeah.
guilty.
Hypersensitive.
Also, like
Yeah.
it's also we got to remember that they are people who also are like trying to figure out their finances.
Yeah, and
you
they
know
also
what I'm saying?
buy
It's like,
shit that
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like,
But I mean, in terms of like saving up for like their kids, they're not probably expecting their kids to save up for retire. I mean, maybe this is different for different like type of parents and things like
Yeah.
that. But you know, you would hope that a person is not waiting for their kids to get their retirement for them. They're putting in work to be able to get their
Right,
own
right.
retirement.
Yeah, exactly. That's something I definitely talk about a lot in therapy, that like I feel like when you're a little kid, or a lot of children of immigrants are met with a lot of parents saying like, oh, like I sacrificed so much
you're
for you
gonna
to
take
be
care of
here.
me when I'm
like,
older.
yeah, I sacrificed so much for you. And it's like, I was a child when you made those decisions.
Yeah.
right.
So it's not my responsibility.
right.
Yes.
I didn't ask to be born.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank
And also,
you, but
if-
like,
and if you did ask me, I would have told you it was a bad decision. I would have told
Like,
you don't
not
do that.
good.
I would have told you don't do that shit. I would have said
not
don't
me
bring me
literally,
involved.
like,
Don't put me involved. in
Taking a
this.
pregnancy test yesterday with the mentality of like, I will be driving to Planned Parenthood
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. This
Don't worry,
is-
it was negative.
Woo!
Is that what they call it?
Woo!
Like we've taken so many like COVID tests.
Yeah,
that I'm
I
like,
think it's a
Negative.
negative pregnancy
Negative
test.
pregnant test.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
positive, negative. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I mean, in general, I mean, it's like it's very interesting to think of like the shame that we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
Just for like, just for even having money, being like, this is it now. Like this, you know, like I feel like we sort of have to get the idea of like, if you are able to make that money a first time, then you can do it again.
Yes.
You can do it again, and you can do it again. And it's not to say that the first time will be as easy as the second time, and the second time will be easier, blah, blah, blah.
But it's possible.
But it's possible because you did it
Yeah.
first. You did
That's
it once.
something that I keep reminding myself, because it is scary to like live, and you know this more than anyone, is like to live off of like other people's perceptions or opinions of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Is that like instead of thinking negatively and being like, oh my God, this could all go away so quickly, it's like it grew so quickly,
Right.
it could double as just
blow
as
up.
quickly.
It could,
or it
yeah.
keep
Yeah.
going.
Yes,
You know?
exactly.
And exactly what you said, like with the podcast, that was some advice that we were told early on, because I was like nervous. I was like, okay, I don't know if this is going to do well. And they were like, well, if like you believe in the idea, then like just
will.
do a good
Yeah.
job and like people will believe in it too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly. There's so much of that is like in mindset. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like where do you think that you can take this? You know what I mean?
It's like,
Yeah.
self-fulfilling prophecy.
All right.
It is a thing. Like, I definitely don't have a Tesla, and I don't like I don't have a Tesla yet, and I don't like own a lot
But you
of
do
like.
have a MacBook.
I do have a
have a
MacBook, which
MacBook.
actually I got from work. My other MacBook was anyway.
And a friend
I
of
don't,
mine says any car is a Tesla if you put up an iPad.
and like just don't drive
And then don't drive.
and let it drive itself.
Yeah.
But like any big purchase that I make, I do think about sometimes I would feel less guilty and weird about it if I had like a normal stream of income.
Right.
Like if I was like an accountant and I like had a salary and it's like, oh yeah, like you're an accountant, people know that you like have a normal job and like yes, you're gonna buy nice things, but it's like when you're making a lot of your money off of social media, which like everyone has, but like most people are not making money off of, it feels like weird and like I feel like I have to explain.
Right,
why, like,
yeah.
yeah, I got the money from this. You know, we
Yeah.
did this.
Yeah,
like,
and people are like so, and it's funny because I always was the nosy person.
Yeah.
But I'm always nosy about people's money because a lot of times I just see people with privilege like not do anything. And then I'm like, wait, how can you
afford
afford to do this
Yeah.
and do that? And it's like, but when people are nosy about people's money without privilege, I'm like, mind your own business. You know what I mean? I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah.
so yeah, like we are making money off the podcast, but the way, and it's not always like this, but the way that it was for us is like once we went week to week, we secured a couple ads and it's kind of like on a trial period. And then if the ad sponsor is happy, then they'll lock in a handful of ads through the end of year. But the way that we were getting paid is that we weren't getting paid until like 6 months later from like the release of our first ad. And so I had a full-time job when we started, and then I quit my job in April before we had gotten our first paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd saved money for myself because I knew that the first paycheck was coming in June, and then like it just was kind of delayed. And then once I got like 2 paychecks, I was like, oh, okay, now because I was living off of my full-time job income, I have this money that I saved. I'll spend it on the Tesla, but I shouldn't have done that because then I immediately jumped back to the month-to-month situation.
Amazing. You know, always find your way back home.
Yeah.
Go back to
never
your bringing
too
it back
far
to
from
your
your
roots.
roots,
Bring
yeah.
it back to your
And the
roots.
ad money, like, it's good. Like, it comes in, but like
Slowly.
it comes in slowly,
Comes in
and
slow.
like it shouldn't always be like that. But like we are changing things. Like we'll see. You know.
Yeah.
Like once that's the thing. It's like now that we're week to week and we have been week to week for 6+. I can't speak. Now that we are week to week and have been week to week for 6+ months, now it kind of is catching up with itself that we'll be getting consistently paid. You know what I mean?
Understand, yeah. So like with that type of financial situation, how does budgeting work for you? Are you heavy budgeter, or are you kind of like working off vibes?
Yeah, it's like
I'm working
6
off
months
vibes.
in advance. Like is when you get paid. Like I'm
Right.
bi-weekly, so it's like
Yeah.
it's like
Dude, I'm currently definitely working off vibes, and it's
Right,
so
yeah.
stressful.
Yeah.
Because like I'll be paying a lot of things off with my credit card, and then I'll get paid like a big lump sum chunk, and then I'll be like, I'm rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'll pay off my credit card, and then I'll be like, la 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 la, and then I'm like, oh, I'm poor again. But
Highs and
like,
lows, highs and
it
lows.
shouldn't be that way because like it is enough money that like I should be like living comfortably, but then I should be like more responsible with my money. You know what I mean? And so
Right,
I'm trying to open like a separate bank account where the money goes over there,
Mhm.
and then I only allow so much in my checkings so that I can pay myself like bi-weekly instead
Right.
of like waiting for this like big lump
6
sum
months, yeah.
Yeah.
of money.
Did you find like when you first realized, like you first had that feeling of like, oh, I'm rich, like this is the most money that I've ever had, you know, this is like insane. Did you ever find yourself being like, I don't actually know what a lot of money is? Because you like not growing up wealthy, I kind of feel like once you get a certain amount, you're like, oh, okay, like this is gonna be great, this is gonna last me forever. And then you sort of put that money into a real world situation, and then you're like, oh wait, no, it's gonna be gone in
Dude,
like
literally, and LA has gotten so much more expensive.
Yeah.
Like I went grocery shopping the other day and it was $70 for like some fucking granola and yogurt and shit.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Yep.
I was like, okay, I'm never going back to Whole Foods again.
No, yeah, no.
That was
First
my
mistake.
mistake. That was my
the
mistake.
pizza from Whole Foods is fire though. We had the pizza from Whole Foods the other
fire.
day. It
Do
was
you know
it
they
was
have
lit.
like breakfast buffet?
I ain't know that. I've never been to Whole Foods.
Dude, we should go.
We need to
I went
go.
when I was jet lagged. I went grocery shopping at 8 a.m. and they had like fresh scrambled eggs and bacon and like breakfast sandwiches.
I love those things.
Yeah, and it was like cheap too.
Really?
For
For
Whole
what it
Foods.
was, yeah.
Yeah, the breakfast sandwiches were like $4.
I don't be
I got
going
your
to Whole Foods. I did not know Whole Foods was like that. I never been to a Whole Foods. I only got something from Whole Foods.
Yeah,
Like,
but to
it was
answer your
delivered.
question, I definitely felt that way, that I was like, oh my God, this is so much money. And then I was like, wait a minute. If I'm actually doing everything an adult should be doing, which is like putting some towards my savings and paying off all of my bills and like all that shit that's important, then I'm like,
You can't get me in my Tesla. Zoom.
That is so true. The feeling.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I just opened. Do you guys know do you guys have a Roth IRA?
Jarvis was
starting one,
just
yes,
teaching
Jarvis
us
was
about
literally
that
just-
last.
Dude, I opened mine
podcast.
when I was 24 because I didn't fucking know what it was.
Yeah.
But I have friends who literally, their parents like opened them a Roth IRA when they were like 18.
Right. Yes. And you like
And
get paid off. Yeah.
it compounds. I don't know how to speak.
It does. It compounds. Again, shout out to my dad. My dad listens to the
Shout out to
podcast. And
his
he texted me
dad.
this. He texted me today, which is nice.
Wow.
Parents love listening to podcasts
love
because they
listening
feel
to
like they're on the phone with their
Yeah,
kids.
my mom
Oh,
loves.
that's a vibe.
Shout out to my mom also, who listens to it and then texts me a bunch of suggestions for podcasts that have nothing
We're
to do
getting
with
to
money.
him. We're gonna get to
Maybe
him.
we'll get to them. She wants to hear about octopuses. All right, mom.
Yeah.
But like a couple of years ago, my dad told me about a Roth IRA. So when Jarvis was on the podcast, he was talking about it, and I was like, "Oh, this is the one thing I know what he's talking about," because he was like spouting out a bunch of like facts that I had no idea, but I did know about the Roth IRA. And then I had gotten paid. I had gotten paid for TikTok, the check that allowed me to come out to Los Angeles, and my dad was like, you should put some of that money in a Roth IRA. And I was like, okay, bet. I'm going to totally do that. And then I like got here and I was like, oh, well, I'd rather spend my money on these things. And I'd rather spend my money on this, and this. And then I was like, actually, the Roth IRA doesn't really make sense because I should use this to pay real bills, blah, blah, blah. All shit that doesn't really actually make any sense when you're like, to somebody who knows about money, that mindset doesn't make any sense. But
Yeah,
like,
no, it's like a short term, short term immediate gratification.
right, exactly.
Versus like long term stability.
longevity, right?
And like,
Right.
I think it's hard for our generation to think about long term investments because the world is so chaotic
Yeah.
and like literally aflame. And
Mhm.
so we're like, will the
Will
world
we even
even
be
be
here?
around?
Right,
Or will everything be
yeah.
underwater by the time I can afford a house?
Right, yeah. It's very hard to think about like, oh, I'm trying to secure my future for America in 20 years when we don't even know if America's going to be America in 20
Yeah,
years. It's like
exactly.
every single year we have to fight off the idea of like, this is probably it. You know what I'm saying? This is probably
right.
like the last like election before things go haywire. You know, things are never the same again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, that's just the trajectory of the world we live in. So it's like, you know, every time that there is an extreme heat, I mean, the last heat wave in Los Angeles was considered by many Los Angelinos, I think that's what they're called, by many Los Angelinos to be the worst heat wave that they had ever experienced. And it's the first heat wave that I ever experienced, like being in this. So I'm like, to me, I'm like, okay, well, we're done.
We're just used to
Yeah.
suffering. It's
It's like,
just like, yeah, the default.
Right. It's like,
for our
okay, you know,
generation.
it's like, why I'm looking towards the future is so hard to think
It is.
about it.
Right.
That
at the
being
time
said,
we
it's
live.
like so important. And I feel
It
like
is.
that differentiates a lot of people who like create generational, like obviously we're never going to be able to build generational wealth the way that like billionaires have it.
Yeah.
But like that's something that I really want to try and build because like my parents moved to America with like not a lot, but like very middle class, you know, very like comfortable middle class, but not to the point, you know, where like they're rich. But they have, since they've gotten to America, they've built so much from there. And then I'm like, okay, I want to do more.
Yeah.
So that like my kids have more and then their kids can have more. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's just like, it's still important to like think about those things because
It is. No, there is a future. There is a future. No
Yeah.
matter what the situation is like in 20 years, maybe it will be completely different than what we expected. But to move like to assume that the world will not exist due to our current situation
Yeah.
and how dire things is, that is how poor people stay poor and rich people stay rich in a sense. Now
Exactly.
there are a ton of different other factors that are, you know, the rich are making sure that the poor, you know,
but they're also
yeah.
convincing people that like it's not worth it.
They're,
Right.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
You're stuck with this. Yeah.
Yeah, you're stuck with this, so just make you the best. Whatever brings you this instant happiness right now is better than
Yeah.
whatever's gonna be.
And that's why I think like you should and can like splurge on things, but like you should always just set aside like a little bit of money that like you put into your Roth IRA just so
Right.
that like you always have like that backup plan.
Yeah.
Because it just like grows on itself. And
It does. Yeah.
that being said, I need to do that this year.
Get a Roth IRA, everybody. Get a Roth. I'm getting one. I'm getting one next check. Dad, I'm sorry it took so long. I knew that I would be able to do it
You're
at some
still
point.
young, so
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. We got plenty of time to do it. You know what I'm saying. Now, I mean, I will say the advice that my father told me about the Roth IRA is that usually, like you said, it gets started at like age 18. You know, some like parents like will start a Roth IRA for you or whatever,
Yeah.
and then you're building off of that. So hypothetically, we have missed about 6 years
Yeah.
of putting it into.
And the reason that
putting
you
it in.
want to put it in when you're young and broke is because you get taxed at the amount that you
That
put
you-
in,
yeah.
not at the amount that you take out.
Right.
So like right now, if you're not making like a lot of money, then like you're barely going to get taxed on the money that goes into the Roth IRA, and then
Right.
it builds and builds and builds. And if you put in like, let's say, I don't think it would work this way, but you put in 5K now, and in 20 years it's 40K. You're not going to get taxed for that 40K because the 5K's already been taxed.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I say that because even if you're behind, which I think a lot of people are, I think majority of people are behind in what they should be doing financially. I feel like we should start preaching that is actually the normal, because once you start to get into the fact that, oh, I've done something that like I fucked something up,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
You
Oh my God, I'm 6 years
catastrophize it,
behind.
You're like,
yeah.
well, fuck everything.
Right.
I'm
Well,
not
it's
even
like, well,
gonna
I'm just not
try.
going to do it.
But
Fuck
it's like
it.
we're on this podcast being like, yeah, I haven't started it,
Right.
but I still can.
Yes,
you know, I
you
have the
still can.
opportunity to do
Yeah.
it.
Literally
and I'm still young.
anytime that you start it, it's
better than not at all.
It's better than not at all. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like everybody's behind. You know what I mean? Don't think that disqualifies you from ever having this sort of like the amount of generational wealth that like some people have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because you're starting late. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's like, I think that's really important for people to remember.
I know. And like money, I mean, this is a great podcast because like money really does rule the world, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, you use it to do the things that you want to do as a human
Right.
being. You know,
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
Also, the funny thing about content creators is that like I feel like a lot of people really want to plan for their retirement because they don't want to like have to work. But I think the thing about being a creative is that like you are taking like breaks. Like your job isn't like so taxing that like you take like 2 weeks off a year and like that's your vacation and you work to retire.
Yeah.
You work and then your retirement might just be another project of some kind that is like
Right.
less taxing.
Right. That's very
You
true.
know?
yeah,
That's
you just
very
like
true.
produce and you're like,
Yeah,
all
you
right.
produce or you like go to a like crazy like go to France or something and you like shoot
Yeah.
a movie that's
Yeah.
fun and low maintenance, you know,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
comedy with your friends. You know,
Yeah.
that's how those. I feel like a lot of people don't know.
Dreams. Has to be in that
Goals.
comedy with our friends.
Yeah. Anyone trying to retire
Yeah.
soon and like have a
There's-
project?
You know how there's always those movies that you're like watching and you're like, okay, these people are just like catching
Vibing,
a vibe.
yeah,
Like
just
this is
hanging out.
this was not even a movie that was about really
Licorice
anything.
Pizza.
Yeah.
Those people
I
were
didn't
just
watch Licorice Pizza.
vibing.
Yeah.
There
Wow.
was no plot, just
You guys
vibes.
should just watch it in Italy.
Oh.
Because pizza. I don't know.
Yeah, or if you watch
Okay.
Call Me by Your Name.
Call Me by Your Name.
I
Now
still
I've seen the
haven't seen
beginning.
that.
Call Me by Your
Really?
Name. I've seen the
Yeah, it's
beginning
really
of
good,
it.
really good.
I've seen the beginning of it. Army
Why
Hammer
didn't you
freaked me out.
finish it? Oh. Yeah, Army Hammer.
was just
Have
Army
you guys
Hammer.
seen
Oh.
his documentary?
No, I ain't seen the documentary.
It just came out.
I'm
I
not
literally
watching.
got Discovery Plus just to watch
About
it.
him being a cannibal?
Yeah, about everything, about the
A
accusations.
documentary?
That's
Oh, he's
crazy.
done.
He's done,
no,
yeah.
dude, he's like a rapist.
Yeah, he's
I
wild.
I did
He's
see
wild.
like the screenshots.
He's
and
like a
stuff.
wild boy. Like he's like different level. And like there was a point. At some point
but
I'm
he's
gonna
still
watch
good.
it.
Like you
Yeah,
know, but
yes.
his career's over. But he's still fine. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Financially,
because
like
he's like comes from like a super duper rich
Yep.
family,
Right.
and like his parents were abusive too,
mhm.
Wow.
and like it's crazy.
Wow. Well, you know, fuck Army Hammer.
Army Hammer.
Fuck Army Hammer.
Yeah.
I am gonna watch Call Me by Your Name at
'Cause of
some point because Timothy
Shout out
Chalamet's in it,
Timothy.
and I shout out. I mean, just love Timothy to
Love that
death.
guy,
I mean,
yeah.
just what a great
Ugh, I know
actor.
him personally; he's a great guy. No,
You,
just
I'm
kidding.
about to say, I was like, when are you gonna set that link up for us?
I wish, dude. I literally. Although this is embarrassing, I don't like to like fangirl over people.
I'm
Yeah.
a fan girl over Timothy Chalamet. Now, Timothy
Can we cut
Chalamet is
that?
fantastic.
Yeah,
Jacob?
that's a secret. Yeah, come on, Jacob.
Your
Cut that shit
magic.
out. Cut that shit out.
Yeah.
I did. This is like sort of like a quick question, kind of backtracking to some of your other streams of income. Because I've never done stand up or like a live show. We do have like a live show coming up. But I know that there's like some money involved in that. And I know I have some friends who like their whole job is doing stand up.
Yeah.
How are they getting paid for like enough to live? Like,
yeah, so I do stand up and I definitely could not make enough to live because I'm also not touring. But like if you do like so I did a show, like if you do like a club show, like the Laugh Factory will maybe pay you like $75 to $150 for a show, but that's like if you're like literally, I know, if you're like actually like passed at the factory or something. That's speaking of, I have some checks from Laugh Factory that I have not back. But like that's not a lot of money.
No.
We was looking at you, we was like that
dude,
is nothing.
we're not even 3 digits.
Yo, I was like 75,000.
No.
750.
And this, well, also I'm talking about how much I've been paid. Also, like a lower level comedian, you know. But actually, that's the thing about comedy clubs is like they're pretty, unless you're like headlining and selling out just like for you, like it's your show.
Yeah.
Comedy clubs are like pretty universal, like pay all their comics the same, like on the lineup, because if a comedian is going to do a set at a comedy club, they're like working something out, you know what I mean? I mean, not always, but I'm saying if a really big comedian like drops into the Comedy Store, it's because they're like working something out before they go on tour. And that's really where they make all of the money is like selling out like stadiums, you know? And that's the thing. There's like no money in stand-up comedy unless you are literally touring huge venues.
Right.
So there's a lot of like debate now whether like, you know, there's like social media like comedy people who like have built a huge following and now they're going on tour, and like the thing is like they still had to hustle and like work in LA to like get an hour or get their comedy better, you know, because then you can have a huge following and then people will come out to see you and then you're not funny and then like that tarnishes your reputation.
Right. It's
Wow.
so stressful. It's
That
so
is a
stressful for
hard
such
job.
little payoff. Like it's like,
Yeah.
but if,
And
if
even
it feels
like
good,
a
it feels
comedy
good, but-
special these days, it's like maybe it'll like get you through the next year and a half, but like then you're still gonna have to work. Like you're, you know, you're not like
You're not
set
set
for
You're
the
not
rest
set.
of your life.
Even if you're on Netflix.
Let's get out of that.
So is the goal for most stand-up comics like to become comedy writers because there's money in that, or what? Or actors?
I think both. I think a lot of it depends on the comic, but I think there's a lot of different paths. A lot of like stand-up comedians like write for TV for a living. That's how they make most of their money. There's a lot of money in writing, but like, you know, you only get staffed up for like 3 months, and like that could help you. That could like get you to survive for the rest of the year, but you're not going to be like rich by any means. So like if you're staffing up like all year round, then you're like good.
Wow.
But a lot of comedians also tour, and like a lot of like younger comedians do college tours. Like those pay really well.
Yeah.
Not like super duper well, but like you'll get like $3,000 to do like a half hour at a college.
Yeah, like Cody Co came to my college.
Really?
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
not see it, but
Wow.
And so if you do like 2 college gigs a month, then like you're chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, I did have a homie who did
I
like
was
wanted to go
what's
into
Cody
college.
Co doing?
Yeah.
Nebraska. Like, what's
That's
he got
what,
to say?
And the crazy thing
Prince
is
performed for Noel,
college
too, yeah.
tours pay you even if no one shows up. which is,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, you already get paid.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy. But I assume if you're doing a college show, that the college was probably like, okay, your name is gonna draw enough, right?
Well, so there's anything that exists, there's always like a process for it.
Right.
Like you have to like apply, and you have to have like a college touring agent pretty much to like help you get
Interesting.
on college tours.
Interesting.
And you have to like audition for the college touring booker.
Mm.
And so there's always like industry involved, you know, and there's always like a million steps to do
Right.
anything.
Jesus.
But
Jesus.
you don't really have to have that big of a following. If like the booker thinks you're funny, like they'll book you on colleges. And like
Sure.
it's like, you know, it's administrators who are like running the programming for
Right.
their
They don't
college
know,
when they
yeah.
have like X amount of money and they just need to spend it on
Yeah,
some
they
form of
literally just need to
entertainment.
They
spend
just
it,
need to
yeah.
spend it.
And
Yeah.
so like they'll just pay you like $3,000.
There's so much money. There's so much
In
money that's being
college
thrown
system.
around. Yeah, that's being
Literally,
thrown around just like
I
just
feel
because
like that's something I'm like learning as I get older, and like the more I do, I'm like, there's so much money out there.
Just
You-
waiting to be used.
Yeah,
Just
you
waiting.
just have to
Find
figure
it.
out who will give it to you.
Right.
People
yeah.
need to spend a certain amount. Like when I was an RA, lower, but like I needed to spend X amount of money on like snacks and like
Yeah.
things for my residents. So like I would just like cater canes like once a month and be
Right.
like,
Yeah.
this is lit, but it's like I'm not nice. Like I literally I have to do
Yeah.
this for a
Right,
job.
yeah.
Like,
I was vice president of the theater club at my school, and
course.
yeah, of course.
wow.
And every like to get the same budget that we had to do next year, we'd have to spend a certain amount of money.
right, you're just spending on bullshit.
Yeah,
like,
so I was like, let's just go to a touring shows, like just
Right.
Broadway touring shows, and like I'm like, they're not gonna let us do that.
Yeah,
They're not
and
gonna let
'cause
me
the
spend
thing
$1,000 on that, and they do.
It's like if you don't, I feel like it's almost like politics or Congress. Like if you don't spend the money, or nonprofits, if you don't spend the money, then they'll lower your budget for
right.
the next
Right,
Like,
year.
oh,
yeah.
they don't need it.
They don't need it. So you
Yeah.
got to prove that you do when it's really
Yeah.
just you having fun, which is great. You know, you just got to find out where those things
Yeah.
are, you know,
It's
and it's
everywhere. There's so much money
there's
everywhere.
so
Dude,
much.
And that's the thing is that I recently learned too. Like if you want to fund a short, like the best way to do it isn't like through crowdfunding with your friends. Like our friends don't have any money.
Yeah, my
Mm.
friends.
So
broke.
it's like
Yeah.
find like some advice I heard once is like go to your dentist and like pitch them your short film,
what?
and they can like help you finance it. And the thing is with financing is that like if you sell the movie or make money off of it later, they get a return on it.
sure.
Oh.
But it's like pitch the movie to like bigger sharks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Mm.
bigger people who will be able to give you like a chunk of money rather than getting $10 from like 100 people.
Wow.
Get like
Yeah.
$5,000 from like one
Like some
person.
rich people. I'm not gonna name drop them, but I know some rich people.
Yeah.
Mm.
Put together a little short pitch deck.
A
Cast
short
me
little
and we're good
pitch
to go.
deck.
Yeah, no, we're literally good to go. For your podcast, wasn't it based off of, or I don't know, like your co-host wrote a book called Cultish.
Yeah,
right?
so
And
my co-host wrote a book called Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism. Her name's
Yeah.
Amanda Montel.
Amanda Montel.
And she wrote, the book was about like real cults, and like it's very
Okay.
like it's about the language around cults, and so she talks about different cults and like throughout the book.
Mhm.
But there were a lot of cults that she wanted to cover that she didn't get to. And so she reached out and she was like, hey, like what if we covered like some of the cults that I didn't get to, and like other cults that are kind of like a joke,
Mm-hmm.
and you helped me like produce it and co-host it. And like I was like, yeah, definitely. And then together we kind of like developed the idea out more, and like the
Okay.
segments, and like built out a show. And like honestly, we worked on it for like a year before it even like went live. Like we
Wow.
had like almost all the first 10 episodes were like already pre-recorded
Mm.
before
Nice.
we went live,
Yeah.
because then we could like edit them back and forth. And the only reason I was able to do this was because I was like on pandemic unemployment. You know what I mean?
Right.
And she's a
Wow.
full-time author. And so also it was like gonna be great for promoting her podcast.
Right.
And so
yeah.
we were gonna do, so we had like, actually I don't know if I want to talk about this,
Mm,
but
yes.
yeah, pretty much we like worked on the podcast for like a year.
Nice.
And then we were gonna work on it with some people.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, actually we don't really think that it's a a good idea, and we don't want to
Interesting.
work with you. And then
So you just did it.
yeah, and
So you
then
just did it
even though it was
yourself.
like fully our idea,
Yeah.
they were gonna like help us produce it, and then they were like, actually we're not interested. And then we were like, all right, fuck it, like we'll just do it on our own.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
then we like revamped the whole idea and like produced it and released it on our own. And
Damn.
Do you I don't know if you like
I'm
even
sweating so
know this.
much.
I know I'm sweating so much. I'm trying to wrap it up, but
Yeah.
I am actually really curious about this.
no, go on.
Yo.
Well, I don't know even if you know this answer, but like, does it? And this is literally like not even like your thing to share, but does Amanda make more from being an author or being a podcaster? Because an author is so like, that is like a profession that's like been around, and it's so like
It's so
writing book-
honorable.
It's honorable, and it's like a podcaster. You're getting brand deals. It's like
podcast.
really,
Yeah.
And
That
she's
makes-
like a
that makes sense.
bestseller, right? Wasn't
Wow.
that book like good? Like really?
Uh,
hella? I mean,
no.
obviously it's good, but it's like,
It is really no. It
it did well.
I mean, it did really well, and I think that was one of the reasons, like, the podcast, like, it was like
picked up,
they
yeah.
cross promoted each other
yeah,
really well.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
But I think the great thing about the podcast is, you know how like books have like a shelf life almost, like, they like peak and then they kind of like
Sure.
stabilize.
Yeah.
She mentions the book like every episode, so then like she's
Oh,
selling more
so she's
books.
selling more
like
and
I mean,
more.
she
So
sold
That's very
so many
smart.
copies
We write
of
a
the
book.
book.
Yeah, we gotta write a book.
I know. I'm like,
Write
I need to
book.
write a book.
Yeah, yeah, I gotta get some money.
Wait, so do you do so stand-up comedy is not the way that you make money? Do you just do it because you just like it? Is that
Yeah, I love stand-up comedy,
Wow.
but I also want to make money off of it sometime. You know,
Okay.
like I don't think
Yeah.
I would make like my main source of income, but I also think it's like a really good creative process for workshopping jokes. And like I also want to like write for TV and act. And I
Right.
think a lot of like your acting can be influenced by like stand-up comedy. And
Yeah.
like, cause you know,
Yeah.
like when people get cast in movies, like they still have to deliver the line comedically.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it's like,
And like engaging and like
Yeah.
charismatic. So a lot of those skills
they transfer. They definitely
directly
transfer.
to be a captivating performer.
I've like noticed a lot of like crossover in between like just genuinely all the like all of the creative jobs like acting, you know, content creation, music production, writing. All it's like once you I think before I moved here, I kind of felt like there was a separation between all of them, and I was kind of like, oh, I'm only if I do this particular thing, then I have to focus on that only.
Right, because I'm not going to be able to do the other things.
But then you move to Los
skills,
Angeles. You move to a big city and you kind of realize that that's not the case at all. It's like everybody kind of has their hand in everything. You know,
that's why like everyone's like a
multi-hyphenate
now.
Yeah, everybody's doing the Renaissance
It's honestly
thing.
like a privilege not to be. You know
Yeah,
what I
right.
mean?
Yes,
like it's a
that's how I
privilege
know,
to
yeah.
just be an actor,
Yes.
or to just be a writer.
Exactly.
If you're
It's
just
like-
doing that, it's like wow, you succeeded in some
because
shit.
like since we're like hustling to still make it, we have to do all of those things.
Right, yeah.
And a comedian produces their own show, they write their own material, they act in their own sketches.
Yeah.
Like, you know, a comedian is like a director, actor, producer, performer.
Yep. That's
Which
real
is
as fuck.
Exhausting but fun.
Exhausting,
and it
but
has a
fun.
payoff, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
I also, the last reason I like love doing stand up is because it's like one of the last few like art forms that are left that are like live, that are like interactive.
It has to be live.
Yeah, and we like, I don't know, we spend so much time on our phones that it's like nice to like get an immediate reaction from someone in front of you.
Right. That's what I mean, even to go back to what I like the crossover between stand-up comedy and theater, because theater is really the same way. You don't really get paid much. Even once you succeed in theater, you're not really like getting paid a whole time. Broadway performers don't get paid a lot of money at all. So it's like when I was graduating college, I was like, oh, this is really just going to be like a labor of love. Like I just want to do this because I love this shit. Like I'm like real passionate about it. Just being okay with the fact that I was never going to make money. Now, granted, this was before I was an adult and I recognized how much money would mean. And now I'm like, well, that's not an option.
Yeah, we can do that later on.
I feel like you see like famous actors go back to Broadway after like,
as a fun hobby.
As a fun hobby, as a like portion of their like becoming the full person of who they are. You know what I'm saying? But they had to make that money first.
Yeah.
You know
and the show makes more money because their name draws them in to the show.
Radcliffe.
Daniel
Emma
Radcliffe,
Stone.
Denzel Washington. He's making
he's
$1
on
million.
Broadway?
Yeah, he was making $1 million. He was just recently in a play, and I mean, it was like it in terms of like noteworthy names. I'm pretty sure he was like it. You know what I'm saying? So he was the draw. Yeah, so it was like he was the draw to the entire thing. So in terms of their budget, I'm pretty sure he got paid like what was like probably like $1 million a week. I don't know.
So
that
crazy,
may be an exaggeration, but it also may not.
No,
be.
that makes sense.
They would
People
actually
will go just to see Denzel Washington
exactly.
in person in front of them.
You're selling
even if
out
they don't
crowds
watch
just
theater.
for Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And also his performance in it was spectacular because it's Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
But it's like every other person now, it's like in comparison, he's making millions upon millions on just doing that show in particular, and then they're all getting paid probably the Broadway standard, and the Broadway standard is like it's like $2,000, $3,000 a week. I think, I think it might be or every two. I don't know. It's certainly not a ton. It's certainly not a ton at all.
It's funny how
and they
like
have to
you
live in
think
New York.
$2,000 a week is like great because it's 6 figures.
Because it's
if you
right,
work 52 weeks a year.
Yes,
but if you're comparing it to $1 million a week.
$1 million a week, plus also you're performing 8 times a week. You know what I'm saying? It's like theater is It's a different type of level of
per hour. It's like really not that much.
It's not. It's
You're
not
8 shows a week.
Yeah, it's pretty
you
crazy.
Can't do shit.
It's really crazy. You can't like have a life like you used to. You know what I'm saying? Your whole life has to be theater. Okay.
Well,
This has been fantastic.
Yeah, it's
This
been a
has been
great-
fantastic. It was also a pretty sauna-like
Yeah,
experience.
it's
Literally-
still, it's not a heat wave, but it's so hot
But
in
it's
this
so
room.
hot in this room. And
Please
like,
subscribe to our Patreon so we can
please,
afford
God,
an
we were
AC.
trying to get a
Please
Dyson.
subscribe to their Patreon. I will not be coming back until they can afford it. I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
we have got to get some quiet air in here because I'm like, during the third minute, there was a piece of sweat that dripped down my eye like it was a tear,
Yeah, we
and I
have to
was
take
like, I don't have
breaks.
any more questions. I have no more
more
questions.
And I have
questions.
no more answers.
Yeah.
So thanks for having me.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
thank you
this was
for
a
being
joy.
here, Isa. It was amazing.
Well,
it was a pleasure.
Another great podcast episode.
Episode.
What a blast this
Um,
was to do this. Thank you again to Jacob for helping us produce
Love
this
Jacob.
podcast.
And this is Maria Small,
And this is Isaiah Washington.
and we're breaking,
Breaking broke, baby. Have a great day, everyone.